Ladies and gentlemen, the 2025 preseason testing has just concluded. Let's look at how each of the team looks, and we will talk a little bit about their performance, the driver lineup, and their potential position on the grid. We will start with the championship losers from the 2024 season, Sauber, and work our way all the way up to the defending constructor champions, McLaren. I will try to keep it short, only a minute or two per team for efficiency. Starting with Sauber. In one sentence, these guys will be shit. In the previous season, they were dead last and scored some miracle points. That's not going to happen this season because the car is already as good as it is going to be because the team in 2026 is going to be Audi. It's not like they will invest heavily into the development of the car. They did make some retarded ass changes to the side pod design and some other aerodynamic components and some cooling components like the slits on the car and the vents around the engine to cool the car towards the rear section of it. They have made some changes. It's not like they're not trying. Sam Collins, F1 technical TV presenter, is, coming in his pants by looking at all of this design. They look shit, by the way. And I don't think they're going to do this team any good. They're just waiting desperately to wipe the slate clean and start in a better position. This is great for Gabriel Bortoleto because he can take his sweet time getting acclimated to a Formula One environment and get some good practice laps. And like every session these guys are going in is essentially a practice session anyway. Nico Hulkenberg is going to endure a very grueling season because both of the cars will be in every Grand Prix for the sake of participation. The only reason why anyone would pay any attention to them is if the drivers will pull some miracle in qualifying or score some miracle points or crash and trigger safety cars and red flags that influence race wins and championships. But we will see about all of that as we hit Melbourne in a couple of weeks' time. Up next, we have Williams. They are showing some promising signs, and I'm not just talking about Carlos Sainz's top timesheet across the 3 days of testing. I'm also saying how James Vowles has restructured the Williams Formula One team because back in the day, I'm talking about like a few years ago, these guys were just winging things. Earlier, these guys were operating based on their gut instinct, and now their workflows are much more streamlined and data backed, which is a weird thing to say because these guys are a Formula One team, and if you're guessing things to develop the car or, tweak the car based on the track and racing conditions, you're already in a bad position. But fortunately, they're in the correct path right now. Now, with that being said, is it possible that Carlos Sainz will be fighting for pole positions and wins? Probably not. But is it possible that he fights for podium positions once in a while? I think so, yes. Maybe on some tracks, the Williams will be fast enough to get into the top 5, and if the frontrunners crash out or something, Carlos can get a podium. It'll be wild if Carlos Sainz begins his revenge arc in Melbourne by securing a podium on the season opener itself. It'll be phenomenal. Just imagine that. Like Fernando Alonso scored a podium in the 2023 season opener. Imagine that happening once again, but with Carlos Sainz, another Spaniard for an underdog team. Another thing about Williams that I would like to talk about is Alexander Albon. He is a weakness of the team. He has some good moments, I'm not gonna lie. He has some good qualifying performances here and there. He had some good race performances here and there. He also makes some good overtaking moves here and there. He has a highlight reel. I get what most people are saying who are defending Alex Albon, but Alex, I think he is gonna be exposed. Albon crashes a lot throughout the season, whether it is in practice sessions or qualifying sessions or races. You would rarely see Alex Albon execute a clean weekend and get some decent results. There is always some scrappiness in how he executes the complete race weekend, and with the smooth operator being his teammate, he is gonna be smoked. So we will see how this pans out. Carlos Sainz speaks highly of Alex Albon. Both of them don't have the appendix, by the way, so that is going to give them some type of advantage, I'm assuming. Williams could fight for like P5 or something in the constructors, because considering the direction they're in and the amount of wind tunnel testing time they had, because they were shit last year as well, I think they were P9 in the constructor standings. Considering all of that, it is possible that they can make a significant jump compared to other people in their vicinity. We move on. Toro Rosso. I don't care they are now called Racing Bulls or some shit. I'm gonna call them Toro Rosso. There's too many name changes. I'm not gonna remember all of them. So either way, Toro Rosso will be decent at certain Grand Prix. They're not going to be good everywhere. Like in tracks like Monza or Brazil or Mexico, there are some tracks that favor the Toro Rosso, and the drivers must grind in these events to not only score some decent points and gain the advantage over their competitors in the constructor standings, but also capture the attention of the boss man. Yuki Tsunoda still needs to push, and Isaac Hadjar is coming in with very little pressure on his back, because all he has to do is to keep up with Yuki, and he has probably like 3 to 4 races to keep up with Yuki. If he fails to do that, then I'm pretty sure the Toro Rosso guys will fire as Isaac immediately and replace him with someone else. So either way, we will see what happens. Yuki Tsunoda is probably going to stab himself with a samurai sword after getting fired from Formula One, because that is the Japanese way. That's how you deal with rejection and failure if you're from Japan. I guess we'll find out what happens. Up next is Haas. Now, presently, according to the testing data, they're second last, but we know that's not going to be their true performance. I think as the season progresses, they will be able to score some points in a lot of the Grand Prix. That's what they have been doing. They try to do more with less. All of this is great news for Oliver Bearman, because, again, in the initial part of the season, he can get acclimated to the Formula One environment easily and get some practice laps in. He's already good. We have seen it in his Ferrari debut, where he outperformed Sir Lewis Hamilton. We'll talk about him in a second, in his debut race for the Ferrari. But the worst thing that can happen to Oliver Bearman has happened, because his teammate is Esteban Ocon. As we all know, this guy is a snake, and he will use you to get some success and then betray you effortlessly. And he will justify it because anything goes in Formula One to get to the top, but motherfucker has spent his entire life in midfield teams. I would really enjoy the day in which Esteban Ocon leaves Formula One. Either way, we will see how Haas performs. I'm excited to see in the tracks in which they squeeze out some extra performances from the car. Up next, we have Alpine. They got Pierre Gasly, and this guy will definitely push hard, and he is great at qualifying and is also good at race. One of the interesting stats about Pierre Gasly from the 2024 season is that he did not get into a crash in the entire year. And all of it contributed to having more money for car development and all that type of stuff. And we saw how Alpine grew in performance, had a few good races towards the end of the season. Like, for instance, I think in Qatar, Pierre Gasly finished P5 or something like that. I think he scored 10 points in Qatar or in Abu Dhabi, something like that. So towards the end of the year, Alpine were doing good. So they are in a correct direction. They're on the right direction. They got Pierre Gasly, who is good at qualifying and good at racing. And the problem is, I don't think Jack Doohan is that good. Franco Colapinto is lurking around the corner. I think the pressure is going to be too much for Doohan. And if he fucks up, if he fails to, catch up to Pierre Gasly, because Gasly will be pushing like a motherfucker. And if there's a huge noticeable gap between how Gasly performs and how Duhan performs, I don't think Alpine is gonna think twice before giving Kolapinto another shot. If something like that happens with Jack Doohan in the first 10 races or 12 races of the season, there is a possibility we will see Franco Colapinto coming back. I hope this time he doesn't smash the car into pieces. We move on. Aston Martin. Honestly, I expect these guys to be shit. At the start of 2023, they copied Red Bull concept, and then while they performed well in the first one third of the season in 2023, as the season progressed, they couldn't continue to develop the car. And towards the end of the 2023 season, they were shit. That shit performance continued throughout 2024 and will continue in 2025 because they are definitely focusing on the 2026 regulation changes as Adrian Newey is in the team. Now, I'm not saying they won't make some tweaks. That seems very logical to do, considering if there are some low-hanging fruits, and definitely Newey is going to capitalize on that. But on the broader time scale, despite Fernando Alonso getting some points and outperforming the car in multiple occasions in street circuits like Monaco, despite all of that, I expect Aston Martin to be shit. Now, another thing about Aston Martin is definitely Lance Stroll. He will have his moments, more bad than good as usual. And we all know that he has a permanent seat in Formula One, thanks to Lawrence Stroll, who has the same dream like Jos Verstappen, seeing his son become a Formula One world champion. However, the only difference is Jos Verstappen's son is lab-grown championship-winning machine, and Lawrence Stroll's son is retarded. This is a concerning thing because if you think about the human rights violation that's happening, it's just unbelievable. Because if you take someone like Lance Stroll, who is clearly suffering from various intellectual diseases, and you put them in a Formula One car, that's literally abuse. Anyway, I will give them the benefit of doubt that they will start the season strong, but after Spain, I will not pay any kind of attention to these guys. They tend to fall off right after that. Up next, we have Mercedes. Don't be fooled by their lap times in Bahrain testing. They're gonna be fourth or fifth fastest team. They will be in the middle ground. Like there will be the top three, then there will be Mercedes, then there will be like the rest of the midfield. And then there will be the back markers, which is Sauber and Haas. So Mercedes are going to be in like this no man's land middle ground where they're too far away from the top three and too much better from rest of the field. And this is where it gets tricky for Kimi Antonelli, because due to his inexperience, if he struggles to adapt to the car, then it will be difficult for Mercedes to lead the midfield, to be the fourth fastest team or the fifth fastest or whatever decisively. And if Kimi Antonelli struggles a little bit, then it's going to be difficult. Maybe we will see Valtteri Bottas jump in a few races. I don't know. It's too early to tell. But Kimi is one of these rookies who is going to have a lot on his shoulders in his debut season itself. And his teammate is Osama bin Russell. So right now, Russell is the new team leader. The Russell era in Mercedes has begun. They have new sponsorships and new merch, and everything is new, and the car's color combination is different, etc., etc. So we will see how Kimi Antonelli deals with the pressure and how he competes against George Russell. If he struggles too much. Up next, we have Red Bull. First, we will talk a bit about the drivers, then we will talk about the car performance. Liam Lawson is technically a rookie. Yes, I agree that he's a super sub, and no doubt that Liam Lawson is talented. I'm not saying that he isn't, I'm just saying that he is a rookie. And he himself said in some type of interview, not in some type of, like it was an actual interview, where he said that walking around the paddock, I won't feel like a rookie, but driving the car out of the garage, I will. And he is right. There is a huge difference between merely competing for points in a midfield car and challenging for pole positions and race wins for Red Bull while being Max's teammate. And initially, the gap between Max and Lawson will be significant. Yes, even if you're Liam Lawson, you can definitely get into the grips of the car. But at the same time, performing at the level of Max Verstappen from day one, I don't think so. So he's definitely going to lag a little bit behind Max Verstappen at the start of the season. But as the season progresses, Red Bull must need their second driver to perform as good as Max, which is, again, like I said earlier, is a tall order. And this is where the pressure can make things tricky for Liam Lawson. Now let's talk about the car performance. I think they will be strong in a lot of the races. The car definitely will have the potential to win the Grand Prix in many occasions, but at the same time, it will be difficult for Max alone to secure the Constructors' title. So, in conclusion, Red Bull will be fast, but they won't be as fast as McLaren or Ferrari. Max Verstappen will win races, but it will be difficult for him to mount a strong championship challenge just with his talent alone. And Liam Lawson will experience a lot of pressure, partly due to Max Verstappen's presence, and also because Red Bull do need the second driver to perform and fight for the Constructors' Championships. Up next, we have Ferrari. First of all, can we just stop with the Hamilton and Ferrari partnership glazing? Every F1 journalist, reporter, and pundit is talking about how crazy it is that Hamilton and Ferrari are together and these pictures that they cannot believe their eyes and all that type of stuff. Listen, man, I get it. All right? I want Hamilton to win. I want Ferrari to win. But still, the glazing needs to stop. It's been a while now. It's not late. Time to get the job done. Jesus fucking Christ. The one of the biggest stories of the entire fucking testing was seeing Lewis Hamilton in red. For fuck's sake, would you leave the man alone? Let's just look at how the car is performing. Let's see if they have ironed out their strategy mistake issues. Let's see if the reliability of the car is good. Let's see if they can maximize the performance of the car in every single weekend and win the constructors, which was winnable for them in the previous season. Let's just stop with the glazing. Yes, Lewis Hamilton is wearing red, and yes, Angela Cullen is also there. Yes, Fred Vasseur cooked, but let's just get on with the job at this point. Either way, the good thing for these guys is that they will start the 2025 season just like they ended the 2024 season on a good note. And furthermore, they have the best driver lineup. They have the 7-time world champion Lewis Hamilton, who is motivated AF. And on the other side, you got Charlie Charles, who is also juiced up. But they're Ferrari, so you never know. They may show up with an absolute shitbox of a car. So I guess we will see. There's nothing much to say about Ferrari. I just wanted to address the Hamilton-Ferrari partnership glazing a little bit. And yeah, they're in a good position. They just need to stop the fuck-ups. Up next, and the final team on the list, we are towards the end, guys. McLaren. Their biggest advantage is their car, because they're faster than Ferrari and all of the remaining teams by some margin on their good days. And there are certain race weekends in which McLaren are so clearly faster, even if they start outside of the top 5, they still are going to tear through the field and take the victory. So that's a critical part that they have got nailed. But they have their moments. Number one, they're not learning as fast as they could from their mistakes. Number two, the drivers are super quick, but they're not refined. Number three, there are scrappy moments from both of the drivers and also the team. For example, Lando Norris race starts, they're shit. He cannot manage tough situations like damaged car, like when the car collides a little bit with the another car, and sustain some damage, he cannot just thug it out. He has to come to the pits. If the tires are a little bit worn, Lando Norris cannot manage them till the end. He needs to come to the pits. Similarly, Oscar Piastri also has a few weaknesses. His quali performance is not as good. He doesn't have a pole position, so it's very difficult to say that he has good qualifying speed. And occasionally he demonstrates poor racecraft and scrappy execution of the race weekend, because I recall in Interlagos, it was a great opportunity for Oscar to prove that he's the real deal. I mean, he already did prove to the team, but he could have capitalized on that rain-soaked Sao Paulo opportunity in 2024. But, he fucked up. So all of these mistakes, like, this is where McLaren are going to probably lose. Like, if they lose the Drivers' Championship or the Constructors' Championship in the 2025 season, it is going to be because of the drivers, not the car, because they have the best car on the grid. Now, guys, do you know what's the most interesting part about this entire podcast episode? You could have drawn the same conclusion after watching last year's season finale. Like, literally, because testing is weird as shit. The weather conditions were dynamic as fuck. Teams may know fuck all themselves. A lot of people don't know how difficult it is to read into the lap times and determine the actual spec of the car to extract the maximum performance. A lot of people underestimate the complexity of that task. They're like, oh, F1 cars are testing, they're collecting data. Oh, magically they're gonna find out the correct operating window. It's not that simple. So, again, I have wasted many, many hours of my life watching the preseason testing. The only reason why testing is useful is because it's useful for the teams, and it is useful for rookies like Fernando Alonso and Lewis Hamilton to get used to the team and get the F1 experience and get some running hours under their belt, get some mammoth laps under their belt, and they can start the season, hit the ground running. We will have McLaren versus Ferrari for sure for title, and if you throw Max Verstappen in the mix for the driver's crown, and Liam Lawson, who will either, you will either beat Max Verstappen or you will end up like Sergio Perez. So that's also an interesting part. George Russell, Kimi Antonelli, that dynamic, we will see how that plays out. And obviously, no one cares about the rest of the teams. So we will talk about that if something interesting develops in those areas. In the upcoming days, in the next few days, I am going to review and analyze each of the championship contenders for the 2025 season. Both of the McLaren drivers, both of the Red Bull drivers, not both of the Red Bull drivers, only Max Verstappen. Both of the McLaren drivers, one Red Bull driver, Max Verstappen, both of the Ferrari drivers. I'm going to analyze every single one of their strengths and weaknesses before the Melbourne Grand Prix begins. So get subscribed if you're interested in that. This will help you, if you're into sports betting, this will actually help you. So I will see you in those videos. Thank you for listening in. Like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.